presidential candidate of the NBA. My name is Mary Imaswan, and this session was organized by the Palm magazine. And we have our special guest. His name is Mr. Olumide Akpata. Welcome, sir. It's nice to have you here.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I'm extremely delighted to be with you.
That's wonderful, sir, and we're extremely delighted to have you here too. So before we could proceed with the questions, I'd love to quickly introduce our special guest. So as I said, his name is Mr. Olumide Akpata, and he is the senior partner and the head of the corporate and commercial practice group of Templars, which is a top-ranking law firm in Nigeria. And he was called to the Nigerian Bar in December 1993, and some of us weren't even born yet. And he is the past chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law, but he currently is on council of the NBA SPL. He is also the vice chair of the International Association, African Forum, African Regional Forum, and he is recognized all over Nigeria as a corporate and commercial. The purpose of this interview is to answer the questions that were posed by young lawyers. And these young lawyers come from all over the country. So we have questions from young lawyers from all. Okay, so sorry for the little hits there. So like I said, the purpose of this interview is to answer questions that were sent by young lawyers from all over Nigeria. And so this session is 1 hour long, and we have a lot of questions. So, sir, I would love to humbly request that if it's possible, we could keep the answers within 1 to 2 minutes long. We have a lot of questions, and we would love to make sure that everyone's questions has been answered. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's get to know you a little bit, sir. We'd love to know what inspired you to contest for the post of the NBA president.
Thank you very much. And also thank you to Palm for inviting. And thank you to Adedoyin for his tenacity. And that is what I like to see in the young lawyer. He didn't give up and he made sure that this happened. So very well done. I'm really proud of you guys. Why am I aspiring to the office of the president of the bar? It's just who I am. I like to be the change that I seek to see. I like to improve any space I occupy. And because I have worked at the bar, you know, I've been a lawyer for close to 30 years. And apart from devoting my life to building my firm alongside my partners, but I've also devoted quite a bit of time to working at the bar. I am your quintessential barman. So I have worked really hard at the branch level, at the section level, and at the national level. And that opportunity or that close interaction has allowed me to see that all is not well with the bar. Indeed, if you allow me to be frank, it is dysfunctional. And the analogy I always use is we as lawyers have so many expectations of the bar. But what we don't realize is that it is not fit for purpose. What we don't realize is that behind all of that, behind the facade, what you find is that the organization is not fit to deliver on all your expectations. So the analogy is a car you have in the garage. You have parked your car and you're ready to go to Osogbo tomorrow. You think that car will get you there, but the car can't get there. So rather than complaining, twiddling my thumbs, I have said to myself and a few friends who care to listen to my opinion, and I said, we can do this. We can fix it. It's not rocket science. We can galvanize. You know what Margaret Mead said? Margaret Mead said, never underestimate the power of what a few people who come together can achieve. And for me, it is being being the change that I seek to see. So who will bail the cat? This is why I've come up. I've come up to be counted.
Wow,
So,
that's really amazing, sir. And I love how optimistic you are.
thank you.
And so,
the glass is
please go ahead, sir.
Glass is always half full for me, right? I believe I have a can-do spirit, and there are no obstacles that are insurmountable. It is a huge undertaking. The Nigerian Bar Association is a huge undertaking. 125 branches, sections, 125 branches all over the country, sections, fora, but it can be done. It can be done. So I think it's important that we fix it, and rather than complain. So be the change that you seek to see. That is why I'm going for president of the NBA. Then hopefully we can tell the rest of the country that lawyers can organize, because you and I know that we have major problems in our country. And hopefully lawyers can show the way, because we are the beacons of society, or in society. So I am mindful of time, and so I'm going to keep it short. That is essentially why I'm running. It can be done.
And your can-do spirit is extremely contagious. All our audience they're actually rooting for you right now. So one of the questions a lot of people are asking is, what makes it different?
Being president of the bar is a 24-month tenure. I like to put it in months so that we understand that it's a really short time. So what makes me different? Of all the candidates who are running for office today, I am the only one with recent relevant experience, right? From the point of view of the work I did with my colleagues at the section on business law, from the point of view of the fact that I have been on the council of the NBA, the NEC, for the last 7 years. Well, there are about 6 years, from 2014. So I have observed the association at very close quarters. I was co-chair of the planning committee of the 2019 conference, which was held in Lagos, where the theme was facing the future. So I have with my colleagues interrogated the issues, looked at them back and forth. So if I am successful in my bid to be president, I hit the ground running. We do not have the luxury, we cannot afford the luxury of anybody learning on the job, which I think will be the case otherwise. So we must hit the ground running. So what makes me different? I come to the table with the wherewithal. I hate to be modest, but I'm smart. So please allow me to say that, because I have, with my partners and my colleagues at Templars, in the last 25 years, we have built a firm, right? From 4 people to 100, and we have a head count of 150 people, lawyers and support staff. We've done that in the last 25 years. We've shown how it can work. Now, I come to the table also with passion. You have just said that my passion is infectious or contagious. That is who I am. It can be done. It can be done. I come to the table with passion. Then, but more importantly, I come to the table with availability. I told you I have worked closely with others who have run the association. One of the things I find is that they mean well, they want to do the job, but they are not available. Unfortunately, the NBA today needs a president who is a CEO 24/7. Unfortunately, it's an aberration, because ordinarily you should run the NBA, and also run your practice or do whatever it is your day job is. But because we have not built an institution, you find out that the president needs to be full-time hands-on. I'm a member of a partnership of 15 partners. So what do I come to the table with? My partners have said to me, if you are successful in your bid to be president, we will let you go on a sabbatical to go and run the NBA, because of the work that needs to be done. So you can be sure that I will be there hands-on 24/7 because there's a lot that needs to be done. So that's what sets me apart. I don't think any of my colleagues who are running for this office can hold their hands to their hearts and say the same thing.
Thank you very much, sir. And it's really nice that you have the support of your partners as well. But another thing people want to know is, how do you plan to ensure that the members of the NBA are well taken care of without any bias? How do you plan? What's your plan or your strategy around ensuring that every member of the NBA is, every member is catered for? What's your plan around that?
Well, firstly, let me say that he who knows it feels it. You know that expression. So very early in the day, right? I decided to be strictly a commercial practitioner. I started as a litigator, but I moved on. And what I found was that this is what brought about the establishment of the SBL. Some of us thought we needed our voice because we couldn't find expression within the NBA. But over time, the SBL was established, and within the NBA, we've been able to find our voice, which is great. But I must tell you that it was hard work to get to this point. You will be surprised to know that I am the first chairman of the SBL who statutorily had a seat at the NBA National Executive Committee. All other chairmen were invited at the pleasure of the president to sit at that committee. But because we pushed hard and we made the case that we are lawyers too, we are part of this profession. And so the constitution of the association was amended in 2015, and the chairman of the sections, chairmen of sections, and secretaries of sections sit now at the council of the NBA. So my point being, I have a history. I come from that world where there's been discrimination. So I want to run an all-inclusive bar. Be you a young lawyer, female lawyer, corporate counsel, military lawyer, disabled lawyer, elderly lawyer. Everybody must have a voice. I think it has to be an all-inclusive bar. I think it is a bar where all ideas, it must be about a contestation of ideas. Everybody must come to the table and be allowed to air their views, and the best idea will have to win. What I find now is that voices are gagged, voices are stifled, people are not able to express what they feel and what they want. That is a problem. So I definitely would want to run an all-inclusive bar. And for the young lawyers, the military lawyers, I think we must have, I keep on talking about the young lawyers because you may know from my history, when we started Templars, I was 23. I know it, I felt it. So we need to have a bar that is fully embracing, you know, and from there, we will now be able to run our programs, and those programs will now benefit all, not a few. So from welfare to capacity building, because I think firstly, we would reorganize the association because like I mentioned to you earlier, I don't think it's fit for purpose. So firstly, we need to rework it, we need to rejig it. Then we now deal with welfare for our members. And welfare is a whole gamut of things, right? It's a whole gamut of things. It is welfare from the point of view of remuneration. It is welfare from the point of view of wellness, healthcare. It is welfare from the point of view of capacity building, because I think that is welfare. Because when you have knowledge, you are able to gain power. And, you know, so it is welfare from all of those perspectives. But I think it is important that we first and foremost bring everybody under the umbrella. And then when we begin to engage and you begin to see the benefits of our administration, everybody will be a beneficiary, not a few. So I hope I've answered your question, but I hope you get the point that we want to firstly ensure that Okay, so let me not repeat myself.
No problem, sir. So most of the things you mentioned, actually, we'll get to all that because we have a lot of questions under welfare. So, but before we get into questions relating to welfare, you mentioned that you were a litigator at the time. So there's this thing that some people are saying that you cannot leave the bar if you're not a senior advocate or a litigator. So what is your response to such people saying things like that?
I think it's wrong, absolutely wrong. Leading the bar is firstly, your credential, or the credential, the most important credential is administrative ability. You know, to be able to be a manager of men and resources, to be able to make policy that would affect the lawyers, the generality of the profession, right? So it is absolutely wrong. We know our recent history. We understand why, as a matter of convention, it is the case that in our recent history, only senior advocates, bar one exception, Mr. Lanke Odogio, have been presidents of the bar from 1998 till date. But before 1998, there were tons of them, non-senior advocates, fantastic lady and gentlemen who ran the bar and ran well. In fact, the glory days of the bar was at the time when non-senior advocates ran the bar. The name that continues to surface, the recurring name, is Alawa Kabashoro. I was very much around when he was president of the bar, and we know what he did. Having said that, a senior advocate can indeed be president of the bar, as long as he has the qualities that I have mentioned. So this is not an issue of a senior advocate cannot or must be. It is the qualified person, the person who has the credentials, who has the ability, who has the track, should emerge as president, whether or not he or she is a senior advocate, right? So while I was chair of section on business law, I worked with a number of senior advocates, fantastic people, friends of mine. Indeed, the vice chair of the section when I was chairman is a senior advocate. And he went on to succeed me. And he's doing very well, if I might say so myself, right? So a senior advocate is a lawyer, and a senior advocate is a senior advocate because he has courtroom prowess, right? And he does well in the courtroom. But there's more to our profession than litigation, which is the point we're making, an all-inclusive profession. There's more to our profession than litigation. So everybody should have a voice. And we all, to the extent that our constitution permits it, must be able to aspire to the headship of our association. And last time, at least when last I checked, there's nothing in our constitution that precludes a non-senior advocate or a non-litigator from being president of the bar. So it's a non-issue. It's dead on arrival, I think. I honestly, what I run away from is the SAN bashing, because I'm not in the business of bashing SANs. You know what I mean? I have two partners that are senior advocates of Nigeria in my firm, so it will be counterproductive, counterintuitive for me to bash SANs. I think it is a rank that denotes excellence, and I am all for excellence. But that is where it ends, you know. And I know in the SCN rank, I can tell you there are loads of them who don't share this opinion, and there are loads of them who are ready to go public to say to you. Indeed, you may have seen comments from Mr. Dele Belgore, senior advocate of Nigeria, where he alluded to that fact. It's not a requirement, and our bar will be much better, will do much better if it has the benefit of all, it has the benefit of the competence of all of us, not only senior advocates. I hope I've answered that question.
Yes, you have, sir. So now let us go into welfare. So like I said earlier, we have a lot of questions on welfare. First of all, lawyers as the young lawyers candidate. But what plans do you specifically have for young lawyers?
Indeed, like I said to you before, I started out as a young lawyer. I started out as a young lawyer employee, and then I became a young lawyer business owner, law firm owner. So for me, I kind of like, I think I know where the shoe pinches because I've worn the shoe for quite a bit. So what plans do I have for the young lawyers? Well, from the point of view of welfare, for starters, I think it's important that we deal with the issue of remuneration. I think we must have that conversation. I think that the MBA would have to use its best efforts and best endeavors to ensure that we advocate for the payment of living wages or a living wage to the lawyer. I'm always wary of attempting to legislate about this because I don't know how effective that will be. But there are things that the MBA can do to ensure that lawyers earn a living wage. So we need to engage with those who employ lawyers in the public sector and in the private sector to ensure that they earn a living wage. I'm sure we will have an opportunity to talk about that later. But another issue is for the young lawyers is better working conditions. I hear a lot about harassment, sexual harassment. I hear so much about bullying. I hear so much about almost inhumane treatment of lawyers. I believe in, everybody's deserving of their own of respect. Everybody is deserving of, everybody must be treated right. And the NBA under my watch will not tolerate, will not accept the maltreatment or mistreatment of lawyers. And I think one of the things that we need to do as an association is to pay more attention to the regulation of law firms who employ lawyers. And it is our job to do, but I think we have been derelict in this. So we need to find out that all our law firms are compliant with regard to payment salaries, with regard to ensuring that they sign on to contracts with their lawyers, and that the lawyer's employment does not exist at the mercy of the principal partner. We must check to see that that pensions are being paid or remittances are being made. We must check to see that healthcare is being dealt with, taxes, that the payee is being heeded to in terms of the requirements of the law. Very, very nonchalant in the way they handle these matters. So the NBA will need to step up and, step into that space and protect the lawyers. That is the job of the association. Protect the lawyers, because I find that, if you will let me digress slightly, I find that is what does the NBA do for me, right? And for me, that is a major problem. For me, that shows that we are on our way to extinction as an association. If our own members do not appreciate or do not see any value add in our professional lives. So for me, I think it's important that we deal with, for example, on the issue we're addressing, we step into that space and protect and ensure that the young lawyers are properly treated in employment. But then, to whom much is given, much is expected. Another issue of welfare that is critical to me is capacity building, knowledge development. The MBA must provide opportunities. I always place this particular item under welfare because I think giving the man a net so he can fish will ultimately take care of his welfare, right? So I think it's important that we give the lawyers the opportunity for knowledge development, capacity building, how to learn to, to open new areas, new vistas of knowledge for them in diverse areas of the law. So I think it is important that we do that. So there are many, many more areas that I would like to deal with, but I know that we have only 1 hour. I hope this is the tip of the iceberg. But one other issue that is close to my heart is access to finance, right? People talk about SMEs, SMEs, programs for this SME and that SME. The average law firm is an SME, right? So, and the NBA is influential enough to negotiate terms under which lawyers can access finance, to set up their own law firms, to finance their law firms, and ensure that the NBA will step in or stand in as a guarantor of sorts. I'm talking to our colleagues who are in the banking sector, where if we are successful in our bid to be president, I can assure you that this is one area that we will deal with. Access to finance on reasonable terms, right? Without all of the excruciating conditions that are put in there by the banks, because the NBA will bring its gravitas to bear on the process and ensure that lawyers can access finance and, finance their dreams. So let me leave it there for now.
All right, thank you very much for finance. I'm sure you're aware that there have been some instances where young lawyers have gone to social media to solicit funds for treatment. So would you mind giving us some more information as to how you for treatment? But once again, I'd love to ask that we limit ourselves between the 1 to 2 minute range.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You would have to repeat that question. Lawyers have access what?
Access to funding when it comes to treatment, where some lawyers have gone to social media to solicit for funds for treatment. They do not turn to the NBA. So what is your plan in that respect?
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, I will try to be brief. It's simple. We would have to work very closely with, personally have good relationships with some of these HMOs. We will need to set up a scheme, right, whereby we can get our branches to subscribe. Lagos branch has led the way to subscribe to health insurance schemes that would ensure that our people can get access to Medicare. Apart from that, because I know that some people may not even be able to afford the premiums, the NBA under my watch will set up a healthcare, under our wellness program, we'll set up a fund, right? At least for starters, it will be a 100 million naira fund, which will be funded by senior members of the profession. And that fund will help pay for this HMO engagement to ensure that the less privileged than the indigent lawyers amongst us will be able to access health care, because it is critical. And I think it's very unfortunate with all of the GoFundMe things, efforts we see online, that our own members of our own profession, indeed, I remember with pain, a gentleman called Mr. Dijala in Warri, who was suffering from kidney failure. And
it seems like your mic is on. Sorry, your mic is muted.
I'm back on. I thought I lost you for a second. So I was just speaking about Brian Warri, who had kidney failure, Mr. Dijala, and unfortunately we lost him a couple of months ago because he just couldn't get the funding he needed, even though some people, some well-meaning individuals did their best to help. So we would have to do two things. So it's a two-pronged approach. We will work with the HMOs and follow the example of MBA Lagos and some other branches and get our members to subscribe. We will use the fact that we have the numbers to bring the premiums down to the barest minimum. And then we will also set up the welfare fund, the healthcare fund that I mentioned. That's number 2. And then number 3, we will go into partnership with hospitals around the country to at least get discounts, corporate discounts for lawyers. So it's actually a 3-level approach with regard to healthcare. I say this because personally, I have suffered from many health challenges, and I know the role insurance has played in me being as healthy as I am today, because I was able to get insurance early on as a lawyer, and I know that it is the difference between how we, and earn a living.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Now let's look at, there's this question about how the law is considered as a prestigious profession, but it seems like lawyers have noticed that over the year, this assertion is slowly becoming a fallacy. So what do you plan as president, if elected, to do to ensure that the prestige of the NBA, of the legal profession as a whole, is brought back to its glory?
I have 1 minute, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'll do my best, because this is a very sore topic. Now, prestige is only a function of the success that you have made of your practice. You have prestige because you have done well, and this is where I think the MBA has failed or is failing, because it is important for us at a corporate level to ensure prestige can only come when the things that we have spoken about are in place. Prestige can only come when lawyers' welfare is being sorted out or is being taken care of. Prestige can only come where there's capacity building and your lawyers remain knowledgeable. We are knowledge merchants. We can never be prestigious or considered to be prestigious if our clients learn very quickly, and they have become very sophisticated if they learn that we really don't know much. So it's important that we work on ourselves. That is how the prestige, first and foremost, can be maintained. The dignity that we look inwards, the discipline at the bar, that our LPDC is up and running and functional, because we are self-regulating. It is up to us to deal with these issues. To whom much is given, much is expected. You will be prestigious if you respect yourself. When we have done all that we need to do in terms of taking care of our affairs, then as a body, we will resist any attempt on the part of the externals, security agents or whoever, to deal with any attempt to undermine us as a profession or as professionals. So I think that this whole thing comes down to my mission to reposition the bar. Because if we take the steps that I've outlined previously, if we do the things that we ought to do, the prestige of the bar will return. The voice of the bar will return. And it will be almost inconceivable that we will be disrespected. But if we do not sort ourselves out from the point of view of, like I said, just making sure we're knowledgeable, just making sure that, that we are carrying our people along. If your members don't believe in you, you find out that it is actually lawyers who demarket the profession, because their testimonies, the testimonies of the lawyers, tell the world that we definitely are not prestigious. It is the lawyers themselves, by their own testimonies, that make the world know that all is not well in our house. So when we sort ourselves out, prestige will return, respect will return. But I think we pay lip service to these issues, and at the end of the day, and forgive me, I'm not going to tie everybody with the same brush. There are definitely leaders of the bar, presidents before now, who have done well, including the incumbent, who are dealing with these issues. But you see, it's a big problem that has been on for a while. So anybody coming in now must understand the problem, must be ready to hit the ground running, and must be ready to tackle the problem. So that's why I say, when we talk about prestige, because I'm accosted with this question all the time. How are we going to stop police harassment of lawyers? How are we going to do this? Firstly, we respect ourselves, we organize ourselves better. Then the next thing, as a group, we resist. The NBA, you may have heard of the chap in Port Harcourt who was arrested because he issued a quick notice on behalf.
All right, I'm sorry about that. That's work was on my side. All right,
So I was
yes,
just
with your permission, I'd like. Please go ahead, sir.
No, I was just talking about the guy from Port Harcourt who was arrested for issuing a quick notice, and he was taken to Abuja from Port Harcourt, and until today we don't know why. In situations like that, the NBA ought to, just lead the charge, But I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. So, we'd love to know your plans for preparing the NBA to be competitive upon the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So what are your plans to make the members of the bar be competitive once the AFTA is in full swing?
Thank you. At the level of the section of business law, we played a major role in the development of the document, and even in just sensitizing Nigerians on what that portends. Now, for lawyers, what I think is important, there are three issues really, and it has become our reality. So there's no running away from it. The borders, the movement of goods and services around the continent will be unhindered, as soon as they hit the start button. So what do we do? Number one, the NBA would need to be vigilant. Firstly, vigilant because it is not an all-comers affair. That we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement does not mean that a lawyer from that just anybody can come into Nigeria to practice, to offer legal services. The origin of the services, the treaty pays attention to where exactly those services emanate from. They have to emanate from the continent. So NBA would have to be vigilant, firstly, and very protectionist in ensuring that nobody comes through the back door, nobody from London, Paris, New York, or Shanghai comes through the back door and then goes through Djibouti or passes through Nairobi and then attempts to provide services in Nigeria. That is not the intent of that treaty. So the NBA will need to be a watchdog to ensure, to determine where that particular service originates from. That's critical. I say this because our reality is that we are still catching up, and which is what we'll be complaining about with regard to our profession. The tone from the top is not good. Everybody, if you're not donning a wig and a gown, you're not a real lawyer, as far as some people believe. But now, look at the reality that is upon us. Our borders are being thrown open. We must be watchful and very vigilant. At the same time, you know what they say, you must be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So while we're being vigilant, right, you would also need to, the things that I've referred to before, capacity building is critical. We must fast track capacity building because it will take time for the AFCA to, to gain ground. We must take advantage of the intervening period to train our lawyers, to train our young lawyers, to give them the skills so that, because, the reality, if there's any country that would benefit from that treaty is Nigeria, because of our population, our size, and because of the level of skills that we have in different sectors. But if our lawyers don't have the right skills, we will not be able to export, because the whole idea is that we should be able to operate on the continent, and we should be able to run the continent over with our numbers, right? But what are you selling? What skills are you selling? Right now, we're only litigation-based, mostly. We must ramp up, we must scale up. So that's the second thing we need to do. And then, of course, we scale up not only to export, but also to protect our turf so that nobody comes in here, and we remain competitive within country, because your clients are sophisticated. If the borders are open, some lawyer comes in who knows better than you, your client will go to them. You will lose work, right? And so it's important that we do that. And then, with regard to the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, we will need to gain a better understanding of the expectations of clients around the continent, so that we can work, their cultural issues. Nigeria is not Cameroon, Gabon is not Nigeria. So there are issues that we will need to deal with if indeed we're ready. Because we're churning out 5,000 lawyers from the law school every year. So the opportunity is there to go out, so that we don't keep on saying there's no work for lawyers. There's a lot of work for lawyers.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So let's see if we can squeeze in some more questions. One of the questions I want to ask is actually hinging on what you just said. So you mentioned a lot about capacity building. One of the things that is evident is that the future is digital. But sadly, the average Nigerian lawyer is not quite, they're not quite good with with handling technology. So what then would you say if you're elected as the president, what would you do to help these lawyers get fully prepared for the future?
When we ran the conference last year, as I mentioned, our theme was facing the future. And one of the things I said, and it became a soundbite, I said that the future we are contemplating here is the present in other jurisdictions. And I say that again. So again, I go to the NBA. Yes, as part of continuing legal education, there is we're supposed to continually train and retrain our lawyers. The law requires lawyers to continue to upskill, right? NBA is the enforcer in this regard, and it must be in playing that role. NBA must understand the times. You cannot be a lawyer in 2020 and not know how to use technology. Now, there are two sides to this. There is tech law, which is technology as an area of practice, which is not what we are referring to now. And then there's law tech, using technology to enhance and to enable your practice. Now, it is almost unforgivable that any lawyer operating now is not in tune with law tech. And so, just as how lawyers are expected to run client accounts and not mingle or commingle funds, I think it needs to be the requirement that lawyers must embrace and understand technology. So, we're all in our comfort zones. Some people need encouragement. You may find that, some guys don't, they don't know how to use technology and all that. It is the job of our regulator, which is the NBA, to nudge them in the right direction, to encourage them. Because you see, the NBA should be in the business of portraying or showing to the world that the profession of law in Nigeria, as practiced in Nigeria, is sophisticated. that you can come into this country and find lawyers who are able, who are adept, who are nimble, right, who are responsive. So you are only as strong as your weakest link, right? So the NBA, it is incumbent on the NBA to provide platforms where no one is left behind, right? So the lawyer in Warri, the lawyer in Onitsha, the lawyer in Badagry, we must encourage them. And it is a carrot and the stick approach, right? We will encourage, we will nudge, we will actually drag them kicking and screaming because it is good for them. This is what they need, right? And so you're not going to get your CPD points, right? Under my watch, you're not going to get your CPD points, right? If you don't show that you have done some technology-related program in the course of the year. You understand? It is just not doable. How can you not have an email address? You know what I'm saying? So those things are critical. You know what I mean? Because the client is going to go to the lawyer who is most responsive. The client is going to go to the lawyer who is adept, who understands his business. And hey, look at what COVID-19 has showed us. Right? It is now, we have now been forced to the table. Everybody is Zooming. Zooming is now part of our lexicon, right? And, you know, so I'm sure when the Oxford Advanced Dictionary what's the word now? When it is reviewed, of course, you're going to see Zoom in the dictionary, right? Because everybody is Zooming. So did they have to take a COVID for us to understand that this is how the world operates? I don't think so. So, but because if the NBA steps up to the plate, right? Understanding that this is what is needed and is good for all. It will put policies in place that will make it impossible for a lawyer not to be technology compliant. The conference we held last year, case in point, we just said to them, we said to conference participants, on-site registration, absolutely no. We are unable to deal with 12,000 registrants on-site. That is one of the reasons why our conferences have always failed, because we are never able to get through the bottleneck of registration. And halfway into the process, most of the lawyers registered. 12,000 people. We had to make exception for a very few. We probably registered 300 to 400, maybe 500 people on site because they had peculiar circumstances. The other 11,500 lawyers registered online for the conference. So that means they know some technology that they have some basic knowledge that we can build on. So that's my view on that one.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So we only have about 7 minutes. So let me ask this question before we get to hear your closing remarks. So we know that there are a lot of human rights abuses in the legal profession. Human rights abuses against lawyers by the police and other government security agencies. So in that respect, how do you intend to tackle such human rights abuses?
Thank you. Good question. I'm glad you asked it. Because many say that Olu is not really bothered about human rights, too much of a commercial lawyer, and I'm only interested in doing big deals, which is far from the truth. Harm to one is harm to all, you know. And if we stay silent and do nothing when the rights of others are encroached, one day our rights will be obliterated, and then we will have nobody to stand up for us. So for me, that is my own personal mantra. So if, with regard to the abuse of human rights generally, the NBA has such a role to play, a huge role to play. And the NBA Human Rights Institute must be up and running and must be functional. However, before we even talk about what happens to other Nigerians, it's important that we who intend to protect others, we are protected too. So how are we going to deal with the issue of lawyers being harassed and their human rights being infringed upon? I think, so for number one, the NBA must be ready to engage. I think the NBA must, and for if I become president, I will lead the charge personally. right? And so number one, apart from the Human Rights Institute, which will ensure is the Human Rights Committee, sorry, which will ensure that is up and running, we would also ensure that we set up a committee, right, that will engage with the armed forces, the police, and the rest of them. That committee will be led by me, so that we begin to engage and make them understand that it is a no-no. You cannot harass lawyers. You cannot harass lawyers who are just doing their jobs. So I think leadership will be required in this. Leadership and political will be required here. So we will set up a committee that will work with the armed forces, with the police. We would try to examine, because there are two sides to a coin. I'm sure they have their story to tell, and they probably will tell us why these things happen. And so we will make the effort to ensure that we work with them to birth or to engender a situation where there's no more harassment of lawyers. But when we have done that, when we have put in our efforts and they continue to harass lawyers, we will hit town and we will ensure that, and I will lead the charge. I will be personally involved in ensuring that every lawyer is protected. We will set up, the other thing is a lawyer defense fund. From our income, right, from the income we make as an association, we will set money aside to defend lawyers or to protect or represent lawyers whose rights have been infringed upon in the course of doing their work. So the way it will work is that NBA will have lawyers around the country who will be ready on call, on retainer, to go out there and represent the lawyers. And NBA will pay. We're not looking for freebies. The only thing we probably will ask is that, considering that this is a service to the profession, we will be asking for some discount or the other of some sort. But NBA will set up a defense fund, and a lawyer's defense fund, and any lawyer who is harassed or whatever in the course of carrying out his function as a lawyer will be represented by the association. You can take that to the bank, right? We will ensure that that happens. So that is essentially part of, I know I can see that you're fidgeting, so we're running out of time. So
yes, sir. I want to make sure that the major questions are answered because of the shortness of time. But if you could answer one more question, just between 1 minute or so. It's on record that you organize a lot of utilitarian and productive conferences for the bar. What plans and conferences do you have in store if you are elected as the NBA president? So what do we as members of the NBA, what can we look forward to?
Well, you say we don't have time. Okay, so let me start. Conferences will be the list. Conferences will be the list of what an administration led by me will do, right? But let us start with conferences, because the annual general conference is the high point or should I call it the flagship program of the Nigerian Bar Association. And if you say that 2019, if you agree that 2019 was a great conference, let us just use that as the baseline. That would be the worst that we would have ever seen as a conference of the NBA. We would ensure that the 2021 and the 2022 conferences will do so much better. I am keenly watching to see what the 2020 conference, which is going to be a virtual conference, and I am quite confident that this administration will do well with it. But let me assure you that 2021 and 2022, we are going to do so much better with our conferences. But let me walk away from that a little bit, because I can do conferences with my eyes closed, right? We can deliver. What we tried to do in 2019 was to ensure that the 2019 conference was not only successful in terms of content, in terms of value add, in terms of knowledge development, it was a commercial success. And that was critical to us. And I am so grateful to the chairman of the planning committee, Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, with whom I co-chaired the planning, and also the members of the team, because we achieved this. And for us, it was a vote of confidence when the bar asked Mr. Oyebode and I to co-chair the conference, because the both of us are past chairmen of the SBL. So it was obvious to us that we had done something right, which is why we were called forward. And it was important that we prove the point that you deliver, as we have done at SBL, you deliver a conference that is value adding, but you also ensure that it's profitable. So that is with regard to conferencing. And what's the plan going forward? We will ensure that we run the two annual conferences that we need to run in the course of our tenure. But we will also ensure we will work closely with our sections, who, by the way, are doing so well. Section on business law, section on legal practice, and the section on public interest and development law. They're doing so well, right? We will work with them, and we will ensure that there's a synergy, so that, as you know, are you there?
All right, so I'm back on.
Okay, as you know, the section on each section runs their conference in a separate quarter. So we will ensure that we have synergy, so that
I'm back on. I'm very sorry, network issues.
Not a problem.
So we just have about 4 minutes to go.
Yeah.
We just have about 4 minutes to go before the end of.
Okay, 1 minute. Let's just do 1 more minute with on the issue of conferencing. So apart from running conferences,
all right,
we will also be looking at, there will be more to this administration if it emerges than conferences. We will have capacity building. I've talked about that already. We will set up a Center for Commercial Law Studies, which will be a diploma. It's already been initiated by the SBL, and we will take it on. It will be a diploma awarding center where lawyers can go and receive training and hone their skills, and we make them specialists, right? So that is very important to us. We can expect that from us. We will work with the sections to ensure that they collaborate with branches and take their training seminars to all the branches. We have 3 sections, so that they can do knowledge development programs for branches. We will have a career development center, which will deal with the issue of unemployment or underemployment of lawyers, right? So that we can find out why lawyers are not getting the kind of employment they want. We will have a mentorship program, 3 levels of mentoring: one-to-one mentoring, group mentoring, and law firm mentoring. Because we have small law firms who want to reach out to the bigger law firms and learn the ropes, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, so that they don't have to fall into the same holes that some of us fell into in the process of getting to where we are today. Mentoring is critical, but we're running out of time. I just wanted to make the point, and please let everybody know that it will be so much more than conferencing under an Olumide Akpata presidency. So much more.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate that you answered a lot of the questions. Sadly, we're almost out of time, but thank you very much, sir, for taking your time to attend this interview session. We deeply appreciate you, and we are wishing you best of luck in the forthcoming elections.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that in closing, this was organized by young lawyers. Well, there are a lot of young lawyers who have participated in this process, not necessarily organized. And I've always been accused of being young lawyer centric, that all I talk about is young lawyers. I'm very keen, I'm very concerned about all of the profession, but the young lawyers are close to my heart. And I think it's important that we keep at it. We will be, for example, the chair of the Young Lawyers Forum and the secretary of the Young Lawyers Forum, under my watch, will definitely have to be part of council, because you must be part of the conversation. The future that we contemplate is actually yours. So you must be part of the conversation today. And for me, it's unacceptable otherwise. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So we've come to the end of another interview session organized by the Palm magazine. So we would like to remind you of another session coming up on the 20th of June, 2020. So you make it a date with us. And once again, thank you so much for actively participating. And yes, the Palm magazine is up for download, so make sure you check them out. You can check on the Palm magazine website. You can also check the social media handles of the Palm magazine. The Palm magazine website is thepalmmagazine.com. And once again, my name is Mary Victoria Maswin. Have an awesome day, and of course, stay safe.
Thank you.